What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Casual Movie Fan, the show where we give you reviews and news of all the top movies that are coming out. Today, again, I'm with Zeb, and we're going to talk about the new Pixar movie, Inside Out. Now, I'm sad to say I have not seen this movie yet. It is It is killing me every time I sit at home and I just think, I could be watching this movie right now. But, luckily, Zeb has, and he's going to tell us why this movie's going to make $1 bajillion. Go away. Go with it.
Alright, well, first off, this movie executes what is one of my favorite things about Pixar movies in general. Except for, like, Cars and Cars 2.
And planes.
And planes.
And Monster Ship.
Yeah, okay. It is a movie that a parent can take to see, and the child will not just get a huge amount of enjoyment out of, but also learn something from. And the parent gets enriched by the things that are meant for them, because they can understand some things that their child doesn't. And Inside Out, that's emotions. And we see it like simplified excessively, but also in a very beautiful and poignant way with these little marbles that are of a certain color to represent a certain emotion. So we have the 5 main characters that are controllers of everyone's brain, but there's a different set of them for each person, which are joy, fear, sadness, disgust, and anger. And each of them has a different color. And so when a human interacts with something and creates an emotion, or has an emotional reaction to it, they create a memory, and that memory is held within these little glass beads that the 5 emotions take, and it's a different color. So it's like, oh, this memory is attributed to joy, this one's fear, this one's disgust. And at the end of the day, before the human goes to sleep, the 5 emotions take all of these memories and put them in a big bank, essentially, that holds all of them. And sometimes one of these emotions or memories is so important to the person who has them that it becomes a part of their personality.
And they call them the core memories, right?
Core memory.
And they're kind of kept in like a center.
They're kept in like a console in the center of the room that the five emotions live in your brain. And so, just a quick overview of the main plot is...
Without giving too much
Without giving anything away, this is going to be a non-spoiler review here, is that the main character is a little girl who's... Well, actually, no, the main character is the emotion joy, who lives within the brain of this little girl, and this little girl and her family just moved to San Francisco from, like, it was not Colorado, it was one of the northern states. And so it's dealing with having to move, it's dealing with the crazy emotions that a person can have from being disconnected, or a child, rather, can have from being disconnected from their friends and family, and from all the memories they had and made in their old home. And also of, like, you know, their parents as well. And so, when something goes really horribly for the girl, she gets disconnected from 2 of the emotions, and the other 3 try to make up for the loss of the 2.
And we lose joy and sadness.
Yeah, we lose joy and sadness, and the other 3 to try to make up for the loss of the 2.
The 3 of the worst ones to be
in control.
Yeah,
so you're left with anger, fear, and disgust, which is very important.
Yeah.
Because what's going on is, this is where the whole, like, an older person can still understand and get something from this that the child can't, and why you should always rewatch Pixar movies, because there's always something you missed, is that what this child is going through, it's not just because something happened and those 2 memories got lost in the brain of this child. It's actually talking about how when something traumatic happens, you can lose part of yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens. This little girl loses part of herself, and it's like a journey of those emotions trying to, you know, fix this person's psyche.
And so it's most of everything is kind of just more like a metaphor.
Yeah, it's all metaphor.
Yeah, so it's not just actually like five little creatures like inside your head. Like when I try to explain the movie to people, because you know when I go somewhere, people will ask me like, "Oh, what are some of the next movies coming out?" I try to explain Inside Out to them, and they kind of look at me like I'm crazy. It's like, oh yeah, you got your emotions kind of control you. That's like a machine and blah blah blah. But yeah, everything's more just a metaphor. Like joy and sadness disappearing is not just like, oh, they actually just disappeared. It's just a metaphor for the right now.
The loss that happens to a person when they start to shut down emotionally.
And anger, disgust, and fear are the only things that are in control. So let me ask, how do the emotions interact? Because you got Amy Poehler as joy, Phyllis from The Office as sadness, Mindy from The Office as disgust, Lewis Black as anger, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who plays fear. So
I know, I know who he is. I just can't remember right now. So that makes me so mad.
So you got four strong comedians, or people who are funny doing these voices. Like how are they reacting? Or how do they interact?
They work really well together. I mean, part of the whole point is that these emotions are supposed to be a team. You know, so we have joy kind of like as the frontliner of all of them, because like that's what like a child experiences most. And the others like look up to her, and so when they interact, is usually one of those emotions talking to joy. So like almost all of their interactions, until joy and sadness disappear, is with joy. Besides like side conversations, like they work really well together. Like you can definitely tell that they've had a lot of time to get to know each other as comedians before getting into this role. So like they're already like a family when they're like putting their lines out. It's not ham-fisted at all.
Yeah.
I don't have much else besides that. Like they just did really well.
So you don't just see Riley's emotions; you get to see other.
Right, you get to see other characters.
People's.
Yeah, and so you realize, one of the things you realize when you're looking at other people's emotions in control of theirs is that they start to become more like the human that they're inside, and so the emotions we see inside of Riley are kind of a mixed bunch. And what we can gather is as you age, the emotions start to become more like you. And so in like the dad's head, they're all mustachioed like him, and they all kind of act like him. And so the joy and the sadness in him are both male.
Yeah.
And then in the mom, all of the emotions are female. And so Riley, the main the girl that the main emotions are in, like are actually a mix of male and female.
Right.
But we can like guess that at some point that might change, like as they, grow up.
Now, from what the trailers show, in the dad's mind or his emotions, anger is kind of like at the head.
Right.
While in the mom, sadness is the head. So
right. So
does that kind of like show? Does the dad kind of angry and the mom kind of sad?
Well, it's more like that's the one that shows up more, or is in control more. But like with the parents, their emotions are more mixed because they've had more time to like deal with how their emotions work and stuff like that. Whereas with Riley, she shows one emotion at a time, because only one is in control at a time. And so I think what happens is the mom is more calm. Because when you're melancholy or whatever, you're calmer.
Yeah. And
the dad is just more like, I'm going to vehemently say this or something like that. Like, we actually see him talking on the phone a lot, and he's actually like yelling at people on the phone or getting angry at them or something like that. Whereas the mom, whenever she's on the phone, is quieter and, I think she actually has like a conversation where she's talking to someone about like someone who died or something like that. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't think so.
It's Pixar, so someone has to die in Pixar.
And then Riley has like her main is joy, and so like, as a kid she's just always trying to be happy and stuff like that.
Now, it's Pixar. Am I gonna cry in this movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone dies.
Oh.
But it's and when they do, it's one of the Oh man.
Like when
when that person dies, it's so sad.
when I watch the trailers,
It hits
and
so hard.
there are a few scenes where you see just Riley and her parents hug, and right there I'm ready to cry. I don't know why. I love seeing like families together in these animated movies, and
I mean, well, okay, yeah. While I get what you're getting at, no. Not a family member didn't die.
no, I'm saying like
Or-
when Riley and her parents when they hug,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to cry in the trailers.
Oh, okay.
Because when I think of like just families together, like going, because like in the trailers they kind of talk about how Riley is moved,
Mhm.
and you can see in their house, like even the trailer, like they look like they just moved in. So
Right.
that's always going to be a tough part with
Yeah.
any kind of family. So
Dude,
when
when
you
I
see-
saw the trailer, I was so afraid that like the emotion things was gonna be about her parents splitting up or something like that.
that's kind of what I
Oh,
thought too.
man.
And I love. See, I can only go off from what I've seen in the trailers. That scene at the dinner table, I was dying when the dad's emotions were watching hockey or soccer,
Mhm. And then they're like, oh, the wife's pointing to us. She's giving us
and
signals.
what woman? What do you want? And then they all imagine what was it, the Spanish guy? Come with me.
Come with me.
Oh, that was So I'm gonna go see Inside Out as soon as I can because it's killing me inside. But let me ask one more question: is this Pixar back to form? Is this like the right track because Pixar has had some duds like the car franchise, the planes, which I guess sometimes they don't really count those. I feel like they're like, no, we didn't do planes. Planes
Yeah.
wasn't us. And then Monsters U, which Monsters U was based off the Monsters Inc. movie, which I loved. It's in my top 5, but it just didn't hit the same beats that Monsters Inc. did. So
Right.
Pixar was having a few duds. Not Pixar. Inside Out is kind of like this. It's the resurgence of Pixar.
Right. No, I will say that beyond a shadow of a doubt, this was a really good Pixar film.
Good.
Like, I haven't had the time to really think about my top 5, but it's pretty damn close.
All right. Yeah.
Like, overall, I would give it a really strong B or B plus, like an 85 or so, because it was a very straightforward plot. It was very predictable, but it was so gosh dang charming, and it made you feel so good and so bad, and it made you feel inside out.
There it is.
This is what it did, and I loved it all the way through.
And I feel like that's some movies when being predictable isn't a bad thing.
As long as you do it with charm.
Exactly.
And it did. And it was new, it was charming as all get out, and all of the characters are lovable. It's funny, it does some things that are... Here's one of the things I loved about it. It doesn't rely on slapstick or on bathroom humor
Okay, yeah.
a whole lot. Like,
That's where I feel like a lot of comedy movies, TV shows, anything that kind of rely on that toilet humor to get laughs out of people, where just having a normal conversation could get some of the best laughs. So
Right.
I'm so happy to hear that this movie is doing well, and it made, I think on its opening weekend, it made over $90 million.
yeah, it did well.
And even though we just did a Jurassic World review, and they, that made $300 million, but still for a small movie like Inside Out, even though it came from this huge Pixar franchise, because Pixar is like, after Toy Story, they were just like, man, we can do no wrong. And
Pretty much.
And that's kind of how you got Cars and Cars 2 and Planes.
Yeah.
So,
I hope they learned a lesson, though.
yeah, and that's after hearing about this movie, it's making me more excited for The Good Dinosaur, which is coming out later this year.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah, so
I want that movie so badly.
So I'm starting to feel better about Pixar movies, because Disney Animation, they were doing almost just as well with Big Hero 6,
Right.
Wreck-It Ralph, and Frozen. I know a lot of people don't like Frozen, but you can't. Not counting the music, it was a fine, okay story. So now I'm just happy to see that Pixar is getting back to where it used to be, hitting the emotional parts. So I'm going out to see it. I hope everyone else goes out to see it because. Oh, one more question. I know I've said that. One more thing. Is a sequel needed for this movie?
No.
No sequel?
We don't need a sequel. Like, it could get a sequel. I don't know how it would work. but what it does at the very end is tells you a few things that you already know what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it doesn't need a sequel, because it leaves it open, but it's because it's leaving room for viewers to use their imagination.
Okay.
It's not leaving space that you go, I don't know what's going to happen next. You know what's going to happen next.
Okay. Alright, so that's it, guys. That's our review for Inside Out. I'm going to see it. You should go see it. I'm Addison.
I'm Zeb.
See you guys later.